Okay, so this is the free response from our last quiz to help with some of your corrections. I'm going to talk about some of the most common mistakes I saw in each part, so hopefully it will help you get to that final answer that you need for the corrections here. So a lot of you were able to identify this one as growth, but you weren't always to explain how you knew that. So the big thing is to remember our equation. A is equal to AP 1 plus R over N to the NT. Now, don't forget that this whole thing in here, that's your base. And we learned some things about our base. If our base is greater than 1, and if our base is less than 1 or greater than 0. So if you go back into your notes and you can find information about that, you'll be able to explain how you know this. Talk about your base and what that value means. For B, it says identify the annual percent increase or decrease in the value of the home. Percent increase, a lot of us were able to say, well, I know it's increasing because there's growth. I can see it on my graph. My graph looks like this, but I don't know how much it's growing by. So, once again, we're going back to that equation. I know 1 plus R over N, that's going to equal that whole inside of that parenthesis. So if I look up here, I see that 1.09 on the inside. The tricky thing is figuring out what your N is equal to. But remember, we also know that N times T is in our exponent here. Well, in my exponent up here, I just have a T. So think about that. Find your N, solve for your R. Last thing, make sure you're converting it to a percent. Convert to percent. Okay. Part C. A lot of you are getting confused by this 2010. So it says T is the number of years since 2010. It tells us this. So how much time has passed between 2010 and 2010? Have we gone anywhere yet? Hopefully you're saying no. Plug that value in. Find your new part for this. Last thing for D, evaluate V of 5. Interpret the answer in the context of the situation. So, evaluating V of 5, you either made two mistakes. You only interpreted it, or you didn't know how to find V of 5. So V of 5, remember, we're just plugging 5 into our equation. What value do you get out? But then you need to be careful, because we're looking at this in the context of our situation. We need to be careful with those units. So it also told me that V is in thousands of dollars. So this is the same for C as well. You need to give me a dollar sign, but you also need to make sure you're either saying thousands or that you're moving that decimal place 3 times to the right. From there, context, what is happening to the house price as time goes by. Make sure you tell me that year, either by saying, oh, T years after 2010, or whatever that year would be. E, it says estimate the year when the value of the home will be $839,000. For this one, we know we have $839,000. But this is that same thing with our units. Be careful here. This is in thousands of dollars, so this is already thousands. I need to reconvert this in that opposite order than what I talked about here. I'm going to be plugging 839 in for that Y value. Is equal to that 251 times 1.09 to the T. So you have two choices. If we had learned our logarithms and how to solve, you would try and solve this, but we haven't done that yet. That's not until lesson 6. So what you need to do is you need to type this into a function on your calculator, f1 of x, and then you'll type this into f2 of x. Don't forget to replace this t with an x. From there, be careful with your rounding. I saw a couple people rounding the wrong direction. At this point, if you want to pause, get through finding the rest of those answers here, go ahead and do that now. Okay. For this calculator inactive part, graphing the equation. I always recommend making that table. So I saw a lot of you not using 3 points on your graph or not having accurate points. You just kind of like, boom, that's a growth function. This doesn't work. I want to see X and Y values that are plotted accurately here, so it helps if you make this table here in order to do that. Now, the big thing with this domain, range, and asymptote, remember, we haven't done any transformations yet, so those will always be the same. They're never going to change. So you need to look back into your notes and find, well, what is that definition, and what does it say the domain, range, and asymptote are for all of our exponential functions so far. For 8, it says describe and correct the error in evaluating the expression. So this is big on our exponent rules here. I have 3 times 5 to the negative 2. Next, they say I go here. Be careful with your PEMDAS. PEMDAS says parentheses first, but it's not saying do anything you can to get rid of your parentheses. It's saying look inside the parentheses. Well, if I look inside my parentheses, there's just a 3. There's nothing for me to do anything with it with. So it's just going to stay there. Next, now we look at those exponents. So first thing I need to do is apply this exponent. Don't forget your negative exponent rule. A to the negative n is 1 over a to the n. That should be everything you need. If you still have questions after this, feel free to email me and I will be more than happy to respond and help you out with that.